Thousands of years ago, complex technology which bridged the gap between the physical world and the spiritual world was developed in Iraq, Egypt, Mexico, and European megalithic sites such as Stonehenge. Buried deep inside sacred mounds of earth in Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, in Egypt, in Iran and Iraq, and also buried deep under the pyramids of Mexico, we have discovered statues of very strange demons. Alongside these statues are other artifacts which resemble the components of electrical circuits, such as the Jed pillar, which looks suspiciously very similar to a Tesla coil. In the ancient world, electricity was being generated using batteries filled with acid vinegar, and these devices created a flowing energy which was used by the Illuminati royal families of ancient Egypt, ancient Iraq, ancient Britain, and ancient Mexico to make psychic contact with spirits, angels, and demons. These devices in turn inspired the greatest scientists of the modern world, some of whom were members of secret societies which hosted seances in which ectoplasm and technological apparatus were used to show us images of the spirit world. All this technology was kept utterly secret. Welcome to the world of forbidden electrical, psychic, spiritual technology. Welcome to the world of forbidden TV. My name is Chris Everard, and I travel the world investigating psychic, spiritual, and technological secrets which the ruling elite have kept secret for thousands and thousands of years.
Did the ancient Egyptians have some form of technology? It's quite possible. We know that in ancient Iraq, there were so-called Baghdad batteries, which were earthenware jars filled with vinegar, with an anode and a cathode, and each of these jars could actually create about 0.5 volts of electricity.
In this episode, we break down the barriers of academia and the sheer stubborn ignorance of archaeologists to accept that electricity was known about and used during the time of the pharaohs. For thousands of years, universities and colleges have denied students a true picture of the ancient world. The words electricity and magnetism are words from ancient Greece. And in this episode, for the first time on film, we investigate the ancient electrical power sources used by the pharaohs and the builders of the great megalithic sites. Amber is fossilized tree resin, which the builders of Stonehenge and the megaliths of Europe appreciated for its colour and natural beauty. The insects inside amber date back to the time of the dinosaurs. But amber was valued for other reasons. In fact, the Greek word for amber is electron, and this is the source of the word electricity. And 4,500 years ago, people would rub amber with sheep's wool and create impressive sparks of electricity. Magicians, such as the legendary Merlin, was said to have a collection of amber collected from the shores of Lithuania. And these mystic illusionist magicians would shock their audiences by discharging bolts of static electricity created from amber. Clearly, ancient people knew about electricity, and the secret brotherhoods on the Nile and in Babylon created electricity using so-called Baghdad batteries, and also they harvested electricity from the sky. Alongside static electricity, the builders of the pyramids also understood and used magnetism. The magnetic compass is one of the first scientific instruments to have been used extensively in the ancient world. And a compass will not work without first having a good understanding of magnetism. The pyramids of Giza are aligned almost precisely to the 4 cardinal points of planet Earth. And so, it is obvious to me that the ancient architects had a compass, and yet this is never mentioned in any books on Egyptology. People are being led astray and being told that Göbekli Tepe in Turkey is the oldest known civilization. It is not. For example, in Germany, a carved statue dating back to 23,000 BC has been found. And in Japan, the Jomon people were making advanced earthenware pots decorated with braided rope 14,000 years ago. And what about obelisks? Obelisks have also been censored from mainstream archaeology. The truth is that in the time of the family of Pharaoh Thutmose, obelisks were given offerings and even worshipped as if they were alive. Obelisks represent the phallus. And in the massive Islamic gatherings at Mecca, token obelisks are stoned because still to this day, Islam considers the obelisk to be a symbol of the phallus of Satan. But obelisks were not just symbolic of the phallus of Satan. They were sheathed in an alloy of silver and gold and palladium, and this special alloy was called electrum. Satan is represented as the giant serpent reptile known as Apophis in ancient Egypt. And there is an energy associated with this serpent which is illustrated on many tomb walls at the Valley of the Kings. And this serpent energy, flowing in strange directions from one object to another, can only be one thing: electricity. Electricity in the ancient world was called serpent energy. And we can see this serpent energy flowing in strange directions from one object to another in many of the murals of the tombs of the Valley of the Kings. In the book of Genesis, there is a teaching that everyone, mankind, must resist the temptation of the serpent. I believe this to be an allegory for the peasants not to embrace or to be seduced by the power of electricity. Even today, the Hadith teaches that modern technology should be shunned and that mankind should somehow stay in the Dark Ages. If you think it's strange that brotherhoods in the ancient world would tell people to be suspicious of electricity, then consider this. Less than 40 years ago, there were demonstrations and marches in London against the microchip. Obelisks were always erected in pairs at temple entrances because one was an anode and the other was a cathode. In actual fact, there is evidence to suggest that there were two obelisks made completely of palladium gold-silver alloy called electrum at the temple of Karnak. In actual fact, Luxor means the city of light. The tips of the surviving obelisks, which we see today at Karnak, were covered in an electrum sheath. This is a natural gold-silver palladium alloy which conducts electricity. Many obelisks have a groove running down one corner where a wire was attached to the capstone sheath. The atmosphere is full of static electricity. Each positive and negative obelisk would have harvested an atmospheric voltage which may have been converted and stored in a battery. The battery in question would have been the mysterious Ark of the Covenant. These obelisks were used to harvest static electricity directly from the atmosphere. Palladium is a soft metal and part of the platinum group of precious metals. Even to this day, palladium gold alloy is called electrum, a word which comes from ancient Egypt. Modern electrum plate has commonly been made from an alloy of gold, silver, and palladium. Each obelisk has a capstone, and in ancient Egypt these were sheathed in electrum, These obelisks were the tallest structures in the ancient world and were constantly in contact with hydrogen atoms in the air. There is no doubt amongst modern archaeologists that static electricity from the atmosphere was being harvested by the ancient pharaohs. And palladium has the remarkable ability to absorb hydrogen gas from the atmosphere like a sponge. Palladium absorbs up to 900 times its own weight in hydrogen gas. Palladium mainly comes from South America, so if it was used as an electrical conductor in ancient Egypt, is there any proof that the pharaohs had trade routes connecting them to South America? Well, in actual fact, there are mountains of evidence to show that the pharaohs were trading with South America. In the previous episode, we explained how cocaine was discovered in the body tissues of the mummy of Pharaoh Ramesses II. Our broadcast and reports were first aired about 2.5 years ago. Now, if the pharaohs were rich enough to trade in cocaine which came from South America, then it's pretty obvious they were rich enough to buy palladium from South America or transatlantic traders. We believe in the making of this show that those traders were the mysterious Olmec. Today, we see governments worldwide using the Egyptian obelisk as a symbol of power. To Islamic people across the planet, when they see an obelisk, such as the Washington Monument, they see a symbol of serpent energy. They see a symbol which represents the phallus of Satan. There are obelisks situated at important energy centers in capital cities worldwide. This secret emblem of electricity and this secret emblem of Satan can be seen with the two Cleopatra's Needles, one in London on the banks of the River Thames, and the other stands in Central Park in New York City. In fact, Freemasons have amalgamated the magic and architecture of ancient Egypt into all of their Masonic rituals. And when the Central Park obelisk was erected, thousands of Masons in full Masonic uniform marched up Fifth Avenue in a grand Masonic celebration. Obelisks have some kind of secret. It is a secret reserved for the elite. The elite governments have invested millions of dollars in building effigies of Egyptian obelisks in many capital cities. And they've even transported original Egyptian obelisks, which now stand at the Vatican, in Rome, in London, in New York, in Paris, and many other sites. The secret to obelisks is the electrostatic power which these obelisks are able to accrue from the atmosphere. And this static electricity was stored in a battery in ancient times. And today, we call that battery the Ark of the Covenant. But to learn more about obelisks and static atmospheric electricity in the ancient world, we have to leave ancient Egypt, and now we travel to Lalibela in Ethiopia.
Oh my god, this plane's got propellers, we're all gonna die!
In Paris, and also at the Berlin Egyptological Collection, opium has been found in the body tissue of many kings, queens, and priests of ancient Egypt. Orthodox archaeology ignored this discovery until it was discovered that opium pipes, just like those pipes used by junkies in China, were actually carved into Egypt's biggest temples. The biomedical tests on the body of King Ramesses clearly show that he was high on opium for many years of his life. But the X-rays and tests on his stomach contents go way beyond discovering just opium. Doctors who tested the mummified remains of many Egyptian kings and queens also found hashish. The tests were repeated, and it was confirmed that hashish was eaten in ancient Egypt. The cannabinoids prove that hashish was imported from Syria. Stone Age psychedelia is the most in-depth investigation into the kings and queens of the ancient world. It's a book which is far more than just about drugs in the ancient world. It proves that the richest families who ever walked the face of the planet gained their riches by dealing in opium, cocaine, hashish, and tobacco. Stone Age psychedelia proves that the psychedelic experience is at the root of all religions. Stone Age psychedelia proves that the pharaohs were junkies. Stone Age psychedelia is available exclusively with a free DVD documentary film from ChristopherEverard.com and also from ChristopherEverard.co.uk. The Kebra Nagast is an ancient text describing how the real Ark of the Covenant was brought to Ethiopia by King Menelik I. Who is King Menelik? His Ethiopian name is Baina Lekem, and the Kebra Nagast also calls him the son of the wise. He was the first Jewish emperor of Ethiopia and is traditionally believed to be the son of the arch-magician King Solomon of ancient Israel. Solomon married the Queen of Sheba, who was a queen whose facial features matched that of the Upper Egyptian and Ethiopian pharaohs. At the Cairo Museum Mummy Chamber, we see that many pharaohs were Ethiopian, with orange hair which they dyed using henna. In fact, the Kebra Nagast portrays most of the prophets, and even Jesus himself, as being black men. King Solomon is the central character in world international Freemasonry. King Solomon built a temple by hosting seances and summoning demons to dictate the blueprints of his temple. These demons are described in an ancient Jewish book of black magic called the Goetia. In this book, we see 72 primary demons controlling entire armies of lesser demons. And these demons are misfits of creation. They are known as the Killapoth in Kabbalistic mysticism. Welcome to the south of France. Now, this area is going to be very familiar to the viewers, thousands of viewers of the Enigma channel, and the people that come on my expeditions and tours, because this is where I live. This is where my film studio is. It's the south of France. It's not far from the beach. And in my local village, there are houses from the 7th century. And as you can see, the area is not short on a little bit of history. There are 3 major castles in my local area, and this one is the Chapel of Tren-Cavel. And just within the walls, these ramparted walls here, you've also got the Basilica of Saint-Nazaire. Now, you really have to travel to the south of France to see this Gothic architecture, because if you get up close like we do with our drones, then you can see that these buildings are smothered in gargoyles. Now, the word gargoyle is, it comes from the French word for gargle, as in gargling water. And there is no biblical precedence for smothering the exterior of a building with these demonic entities. And this is all the work of the Knights Templar and the Masonic guilds. And these demons, as I say, there's no precedence in the Bible. The biblical scriptures obviously say that Jesus casted out demons, that's for sure, but there's nothing in the Bible that says when you build a church, you smother the church in statues of demons. Well, what we're really dealing with here is one of the biggest lies put before the world. And what the Knights Templar did is that they had a secret brotherhood. They were loan sharking. They were buggering Arabian boys on the crusades into the ancient Middle East. And when they came back from those crusades, they landed in places like Aigues-Mortes in the south of France, and they brought with them books from black magicians operating in the ancient Near East, and they began their satanic kind of careers. They triggered merchant banking, loan sharking, as I said, and they used to trample and spit on the cross. They brought back shrunken heads, which they kept in silver caskets. They worshipped these heads. They called them Baphomets, and they built these cathedrals. Supposedly, these cathedrals are a celebration of Christ, of Jesus. And really, to be absolutely honest, I've spent years decoding this architecture. What these buildings are is they are temples to the Killapoth demons, and the gargoyles are the Killapoth demons. In actual fact, on the Chapel of Tren-Cavel, there is actually 72 carved heads, exactly the same number as the primary number of demons in the ancient book of black magic called the Goetia. So these demons have water running through them, gargling water, that's why they're called gargoyles. And of course the peasants down on the ground level get baptized every time it rains with water that's run through these statues. Now, there are no blueprints of any of these Gothic cathedrals anywhere in existence in Europe. That's because the Knights Templar kept the blueprints completely secret. They used to inscribe the blueprints on tablets of wet clay, and after the cathedrals had been finished in their construction periods, those clay tablets were put somewhere secret, we don't know where they are, or they were smashed and destroyed. The blueprints for a lot of these temples and a lot of the designs of these gargoyles actually came through psychic mediums who were members of the Masonic guilds who used to carve these horrid, evil creatures. And my research in the libraries, by the way, I do speak enough French to understand medieval French books. I speak enough Spanish to understand the black magic texts from Toledo in Spain. I speak a little bit of Sumerian, a little bit of Latin, a little bit of Hebrew, and you have to. If you want to understand exactly what goes on with Judeo-Babylonian Satanism and the so-called New World Order, you can't do it from sitting in an armchair stealing bits of information from other people's books. You actually have to do what I do, which is travel the world and learn lots of languages, and then you can get the big picture. The big picture in my books is that the Goetia, and if you look under G in the index of any book you care to mention that's about conspiracies and about global conspiracies and New World Order, you'll see that there's nothing about Goetia. There's nothing about grimoires either, which are these books of black magic. So you have to actually go to the source, and that's what I do. And these cathedrals all over Europe are smothered in these gargoyles. These are the Killerpoth demons, and the Caesars of the Roman Empire actually worshipped these exact same demons. They didn't use the same names for these demons, but that's what they were doing. This is the root of Pizzagate. This is the root of exactly what's going on to this day with the whistleblower children from Hampstead and the other whistleblowers from the Presidio naval base in America. These covens, these lodges, these satanic brotherhoods and sisterhoods are operating right now in the world, and they are using ancient forms of divination, and they are summoning these horrible demons. And when they carved these gargoyles, a psychic who was a member of these Masonic guilds used to actually summon one of these demonic spirits and kind of imbue it into the actual stonework. Then it was hoisted up onto the building, and as I say, every time it rained, the rainwater ran through these demonic sculptures and basically baptized the peasants below, who obviously, even still to this day, most people believe that these evil sculptures are on the exterior of these churches for one reason, and that is because they ward off evil spirits. Well, it doesn't say anything like that in the Bible. There's no teaching from Jesus or Moses or anyone about that. You have to see these things for what they are, and remember that the Knights Templar, their leader, Jacques de Molay, was actually burned as a witch, along with lots of his compadres, because they were actually doing witchcraft. And that is the real truth of the Knights Templar and these Gothic cathedrals. And as I say, the Roman Caesars actually worshipped these demons. And in the south of France, just a stone's throw from where I live, there is a deconsecrated church, and there we can see tombstones and altar stones from the Roman Empire. These are stones that come from a Roman graveyard and Roman villas that were built 2,000 years ago in the south of France. And we can see the horrific, nasty, horrid faces of these demons that were worshipped by the Caesars. There is a longer, more in-depth version available on the Enigma channel. The Enigma channel is like WikiLeaks, but instead of reading documents about secret subjects, you can put your feet up and watch thousands of fascinating documentary films covering subjects which have been censored and suppressed from the mainstream media for decades. The Enigma channel is a 100% independent TV network with documentaries and TV shows which are not available on YouTube, not on Netflix, and are unique to the Enigma channel.
What typifies these weird kilopoth beings is that if you look into their eyes, there is absolutely no empathy, no compassion, there is no laughter or feeling of goodwill towards anyone. They have been deliberately created to be the empty husks. They're beings, but they have no soul, and the soul has no compassion. And Judaism and Chaldaic Babylonian magical systems worships these beings, and so did the bosses, if you like, of the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire just changed itself into the Holy Roman Empire, and I believe that it is these discompassionate, weird husks of beings which are still being worshipped to this day amongst many of the Catholic cults, and I'm including Freemasonry and the Corazon Club, the Order of the Nine Angles, and many of these other cults. Some of those members are actually masquerading as being cardinals and Catholic priests, and they even wear Catholic robes. In reality, they are worshipping these beings that have coldness. They have no compassion, no empathy, and no heart. And this is what the Roman emperors worshipped. They worshipped these horrific, nasty, devilish type characters that had no compassion, no empathy, and they worshipped these characters to give them strength. They gave them offerings of food, offerings of wine. I mean, there was sacrifice of slaves that were taken from countries that had been conquered by the Caesars and the emperors of the Roman Empire. And they were doing everything they could to give power and give spiritual forcefulness to the spirits of these kind of serial killer type gods. And they have these horrific faces, terrible faces, but they have the bodies of young children. And that personifies the pantheon of so-called gods which the Roman emperors worshipped, and they also worshipped the planets as well. The known planets at that time were moving through the sky, and they were also worshipped as well. Zeus was the word for Jupiter from the Mediterranean world. So, this is a really important repository of stones, because you've got lots of astronomical symbols here. You've got universes, galaxies, you've got stars all represented here, and you've also got these horrible serial killer type demon characters all carved into stone. These were all altar stones, or they were all gravestones. And when a Roman emperor or a Roman member of the Senate died, they would have one of these nasty, evil kind of serial killer type spirits carved into their gravestone. And there's lots of astronomical symbolism here, because astronomy and astrology were one combined science. And the reason why astronomy was important is because the planets were thought to be fueled by a living entity, a living spiritual life force. And that's why the Chaldeans, and then the Greeks, and then the Romans all put a great amount of emphasis on combining astronomy and astrology. And we see that at Dendera. The ceiling of Dendera is an ancient zodiac, and here we see on the altar stones and the gravestones of the great and the good of the Roman Empire, the Roman rulers in the Mediterranean more than 2,000 years ago, we see that they put spinning galaxy symbols on all of these stones. Here's a typical one, where you've got the body of a young child, but with the face of somebody who's in their 50s or their 60s. And this is very, very typical of the types of gods that existed, before we had, Christianity. The only other big major religion at that time in the Mediterranean was Judaism, which had been developed by the Chaldeans, which Chaldea is a province of Iraq, the Babylonians, and they moved up into the area which is now Jerusalem. And really basically what we're looking at here are demons. The Jewish people call these kilopoth, and kilopoth means that they are the husks or the shells of mistakes made by the creative force. So God created these as a mistake, and the Roman Empire, emperors worshipped them, and so did all of the Kabbalists, all of the people that were following the Solomonic system of magic from King Solomon. The clavicule of Solomon, the Goetia, actually teaches you communication systems so that you can actually have seances and magical rituals and actually speak with the kilopoth. And why are they being worshipped? They're being worshipped because they're the mischievous, naughty elements of creation. And all of the black magic being taught in the world of the Chaldeans, which became Judaism, is actually fostering a cancer, a spiritual cancer. So that, if you want to simplify things, creation is good. The universe is good. The reproductive life force of Mother Nature is good. And what these people were doing is that they were worshipping and bringing forth and giving sustenance to the horrid kilopoth, who have been fostered to a degree where they've formed a kind of spiritual cancer. And that's really essentially what these demons represent. Now, they don't hold the same form all the time. They have certain forms where they appear in the mind's eye of the magician as weird things like a head of a toad, a head of a man, and a head of a crab, legs of a spider, legs of a man, all joined together. That's like a calling card, so that you know, I've now summoned, say for example, Lord Baal. And at the magician's command, they will take human form, but it's a twisted human form.
It's a distorted human form. It's a parody of what the life force and what Mother Nature does. And that's what they worshipped. And then in terms of real genealogies, Romulus and Remus, or the wild child kind of legend, the wild children left in the forest and brought up by jackals, and they just learned, you know, the law of the jungle, if you like. That is what the Roman emperors said that they came from. Their genealogy is all linked to these wild children that are brought up in jungles and forests by animals, because they'd survived and they'd overcome adversity, they'd managed to protect themselves, they'd managed to drink the milk of wild animals, they'd managed to act like animals and get accepted by wild animals which other humans would be attacked by. And that, for the Roman emperors, was a sign of strength. And so therefore they wrote those wild children into the genealogies of their families. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. I doubt very much whether it is true, to be honest. I think it's probably all a lie, and they know it's a lie, but that's what they used to do. After that, then what happened is that the Saxe-Gotha clans and the Saxe-Altenburg clans started to say that they were descended from King Solomon, who is one of the most notorious magicians of the Judaic system. And he wrote many books telling you how to communicate with the Kilipoth. And in the official genealogy books in London, you can see that the royal family of Britain at Buckingham Palace claim that they are descended from King Solomon. So these tombstones are a very important archaeological discovery. A farmer was ploughing a field and he found all of these altar stones. Some of these are gravestones, some of them are altar stones, and they're all altar stones from the Roman Empire, and these were in houses built by the Roman Caesars and the Roman warlords in the Mediterranean. They gathered them all together and buried them into the ground in one field, as if they were embarrassed about these horrible demons that the Roman Caesars were worshipping.
If you would like to join one of our filming crews and go on an expedition to the ancient world, then you need to visit the Enigma Channel website. That's enigmachannel.com, or you can visit the members site at enigmatv.com. Use the contact form and write the word expedition in the subject heading. In exchange for a small contribution towards our filming costs, you will actually become a member of our crew. You'll be eating with us in the same hotels, you'll be traveling with us, you'll be meeting all of the authors and people which we interview. Now, every year we are filming at amazing museums in places like Athens, Paris, Madrid, Barcelona, New York, Mexico, Egypt, you name it. You'll get to stay in haunted castles. You can visit haunted pubs, you can be taken on moonlit walks around London, and we visit many ancient cities. Our expeditions include lectures about things like Nostradamus, the Cathars, the Illuminati, Nikola Tesla, the Vatican, paranormal research. Believe me, it's a lot of fun. So what you do is you contact us via the Enigma Channel websites. It's enigmachannel.com or enigmatv.com, and we look forward to meeting you and look forward to inviting you as a member of our filming crew.
It's not a boat which is meant to be designed to go bloody tourists.
Now is the time for you to get involved. There are many mysterious secrets being censored from the public, and you can help spread this information by taking 2 seconds to share this clip and engaging your Facebook buddies in conversations and debates. Maybe you're doing a college degree right now and are disappointed with the narrow worldview of your teachers. Well, by clicking the share button, you can strike up a debate with museum curators, archaeologists, scientists, authors, and even your college teachers. Just click that share button. Thank you very, very much for watching this episode. And if you head over to the official website, which is forbiddentv.net, you'll be able to download X-rated late-night versions of this show which investigate voodoo and Jack the Ripper. And you can also visit the Enigma channel and get a subscription and watch literally thousands and thousands of documentaries like this that I've produced over the years. My name is Chris Everard. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next episode, and we are going to be visiting Iran, Syria, Tibet, Nepal, India, Spain, France and Germany in the upcoming episodes. See you then.
Yeah.